However, John started to have doubts when he noticed that his team was not performing as well as he had hoped. He wondered if his employees were slacking off, or if there was a deeper issue at play. One day, John came up with an idea to test his team's honesty. He would go undercover, disguised as an elderly and poor man seeking employment. He would act as an interviewee and see if his team would hire him based on his qualifications or based on personal relationships. John spent several days preparing for his disguise. He had makeup artists transform him into an old man with wrinkles and gray hair. He wore shabby clothes and carried a cane to complete his look. Once he was ready, he set out to his company's headquarters to test his team. As he entered the building, John could feel his heart racing. He knew that he was taking a risk by going undercover, but he was determined to find out the truth. He approached the receptionist and asked for an application form for the janitorial staff position. The receptionist handed him the form and directed him to the Human Resources Department. John filled out the application form and waited for his turn to be interviewed. As he sat in the waiting room, he observed the other applicants. He noticed that most of them were young, well-dressed, and confident. John wondered if his team would be impressed by their appearance or if they would focus on their qualifications. Finally, it was John's turn to be interviewed. He entered the room and was greeted by one of his employees, James, who was in charge of hiring for the janitorial staff position. James did not recognize John in his disguise. "Good afternoon, sir. Please have a seat," James said, gesturing towards a chair. John sat down and introduced himself as Joe, an elderly man who was looking for a job. James asked Joe about his work experience, and Joe replied that he had worked as a janitor for several years. James asked Joe about his qualifications, and Joe replied that he had a high school diploma and had taken several courses in janitorial services. James asked Joe if he had any references, and Joe replied that he did not have any as he had been out of work for a while. James then asked Joe if he had any health issues, as the job required a lot of physical work. Joe replied that he was in good health and was willing to do whatever it took to do the job. After the interview, James told Joe that he would be in touch if he was selected for the job. John left the building feeling disappointed. He had expected James to focus more on his qualifications rather than personal relationships. John decided to try again the following week, this time applying for a managerial position. He went through the same process, and to his surprise, he found that his team was only hiring based on personal relationships. John was devastated. He had always believed that his team was dedicated to the company's success, but now he realized that they were more interested in hiring people they knew rather than those who were qualified for the job. John knew that he had to take action to fix this issue. John called a meeting with his team and confronted them about their hiring practices. He explained that he had gone undercover and had found that they were only hiring based on personal relationships rather than qualifications. John's team was shocked and ashamed. They had not realized the impact of their actions on the company's success. John told them that they needed to change their ways and focus on hiring the most qualified candidates for the job. Over the next few weeks, John's team worked hard to change their hiring practices. They created a standardized hiring process that focused on qualifications and experience, rather than personal relationships. They also started to reach out to a more diverse pool of candidates, to ensure that they were hiring the best possible people for the job. As a result of these changes, the company started to see significant improvements in performance. The new employees were more qualified, more motivated, and more dedicated to the company's success. The company's profits started to increase, and John's team began to feel proud of their accomplishments. John was pleased with the changes that his team had made. He realized that it was important to challenge his own assumptions and to be open to the possibility that his team may not always act in the best interest of the company. Subscribe for more videos.